All right, so it is about 1:30 on Thanksgiving. I should do 5,000 a day. After today, there are 6 days left, and I have 20,000 words that I need to do. I can do that. I know for a fact that I can do that. It is going to be draining, but it is accomplishable. But it's just that I have now, I sat down and I said, okay, I'm going to do at least 2 chapters of this thing. I'm extraordinarily long-winded. My idea of a chapter is an entire novella, but I can do this. I can sit down and I can do this. And somehow my outline keeps, for this one chapter, keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I've already split it in half twice. I'm going to do like 2, maybe 3 chapters this month into, oh, okay. Well, the first one is going to have to be split in half. Oh no. Now I've reached the point where I split it in half. I finished the first chapter. I'm doing the second half of what I thought would be the first chapter. And I finished the first half of the second half. Now I'm sitting there staring down a document that keeps growing and growing and growing. Somehow, the first half of this newly created chapter 2 is already just as long as a chapter, almost my upper limit on how long a chapter is allowed to be, because even I have limits, and I'm still nowhere near done. I might actually have to split this fucking chapter into 3 chapters. And I am momentarily at a place where I can do that. If I'm going to do that, this is the right place to do it. But then I go and I look at what's left of the outline, what would go into the next chapter, and I don't think there's enough. Either I put too much into, either I do it all as one, and it's just too much, or I can split it again, and it will have turned what I intended to be a 1 chapter span of time, a problem established, we live in the problem for a little while, and we finish it, we resolve the problem at the end of the chapter, and we move on. Somehow, instead, I have moved into space where if I split this fucking thing again, it's gonna have turned from, okay, it's a rough patch for these characters, but it's just gonna last a chapter, don't worry. Somehow it's turning instead into a 3-chapter arc, and I wasn't expecting that. I don't like it. I'm kind of mad about it, but if I do split it again, I move something forward, because I said, okay, this chapter's getting to be too big, we'll move some stuff into the next one. Then I split it, and I didn't move it back. I considered moving it back. I said, no, we shouldn't move it back, just leave it where you dumped it. And now that I'm considering splitting things again, now I have to seriously consider, fuck, do I pull it out of where it was inserted and I reinsert it back where it was supposed to be? I might do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the outline for what was supposed to be. It was supposed to be chapter 12. It is now chapter 13. I'm considering having it become chapter 14. And I think what I need to do is rip this shit out. Stick it back. There. And now I'm wondering, since I fucked this up so badly, what else did I fuck up that I don't realize is fucked yet? If I just had 1 chapter outline, balloon into enough story, enough words to fill 3 different chapters, already of unreasonable length, what else coming up in my outline is going to balloon like that? I'm not pleased. The structure that I have accidentally established for myself, let's look at that. My intention was to have 1 long chapter that begins with the breaking of the friend group and finishes with the coming back together. Everybody makes up, we're all good. It has been split in half. And the way it was split was that there's a confrontation that triggers the breaking up of the friend group, and the chapter continues through the actual breakup of the friend group, and then moves into a hope spot where it becomes clear that this isn't going to last forever. But then we have this chapter, which it begins with the character who's just had a falling out with her friends, talking to a non-friend that she had a falling out with long before this. And then I just feel like there's not a strong, theme to this collection of scenes, which is not how I structure my story. My structure revolves around the idea that everything is kind of collected together thematically. Because what I had intended to do was that this chapter was going to be, okay, she has lost her core group of friends. So for a chapter, before the group comes back together, what we're going to do in this chapter is we're going to have her talk to everybody on the outskirts of her social circle, people who really aren't invested and haven't picked a side. And so she's talking to somebody that's kind of a frenemy, someone that used to be a friend and is now not a friend, talking to a friend that's an adult, has more experience, can actually give some good advice, talking to one of her friends that isn't as mad at her as all the others are, and then talking to a friend really on the outskirts, a friend who is up to something and she doesn't know it. And then it was going to continue through, she would talk to another girl that's not a friend at all, but is related to the larger mystery of the story. Then we touch on two more people who are outside the group. They have some thoughts, they have some opinions, and then final scene, everybody kind of makes up. But that's just too much shit. That's just too much stuff. And I am aggravated. And I'm not immediately seeing the right way to structure it instead. So if I decide to end this chapter here, it ends on the note of accepting someone new into the friend group, sort of, with an acknowledgement that it's only happening because the regular friend group has parted. If I decide to split it here, I could do that. Does that work? I think that might work. So let me try to take this shit and stick it over here. That could work. I wish I thought of that sooner, because that makes me want to move some things around, which I could do, but I don't want to move anything, because moving things will require having to go in and extract several lines, several references to my current plan of where things are supposed to be, and I would worry that I wouldn't get them all, accidentally leave something in that shouldn't be there. So I think the end scene, if I split it here, I think the end scene of the next chapter can have a certain context added to it, but that context will be built upon what was going to be the first scene of this present chapter, and instead got moved to the second scene. And I don't love that, structurally speaking, but I think that might be my best move. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make this note that I'm going to be adding extra context to this final scene. Okay, so adding that context actually really helps the scene. That's actually really good. Very thematically resonant, as long as I add that bit in. So what is the context of this larger part of the story, the behind the scenes of their fight, is that the other children are mad that this one child went to an adult to tell them what was going on, instead of just going, no, we're kids in a novel, we're going to solve it ourselves. They don't know that there's actually more to it than that, but that's the thing they're mad about. So what we're going to do is, in the final scene of this little, what has become an arc, what we're going to do is, she previously went to another adult to talk about what happened, and that adult helps her fix the problem. Fundamentally making the theme resonate of, why the fuck are these fucking 12-year-olds not getting help from any adults? Please. Hi, hello, I'm an adult. 12-year-olds need help from adults. And the way books in general are structured is that to give children interesting stories, the children just don't ever speak to adults because adults could solve problems so much faster. We're not doing that here, at least in this one small part. The moral of the arc is that it's okay to go to an adult, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to do. Going to an adult created the problem, and now we're going to have she goes to an adult in this chapter, chop it in half, so in the next one, having gone to this other adult is what solves the problem. That's how everybody gets back together. But I am still stuck with the issue of structuring this scene. That could work. It would be the first scene of this new chapter. The first scene of this new chapter would be her following up on a clue that this adult gave her. Not intentionally, not that he wanted her to go and investigate more dumb shit, but that's what she would be doing. So we would begin the chapter on the note of, okay, here's the fallout of that scene in terms of what she's going to do. And we end on a scene in which, okay, here's the fallout of that scene in what the adult decides to do. I think that works. I wish I had structured it just a little bit differently, but I think it works out well enough. I think I'm good to start writing now. I have already been filming for a half an hour, and I have written 0 words. Whew, okay, I'll be back very soon and actually write some damn words this time. Alright, so, took a quick shower, got myself something to drink. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try to get to work. Do 3,000 words, and then edit this mess. Why is that paragraph such a mess? Like, what happened there? This was going so well, and I don't know what happened. So that's about 1,000 done. It's been a half an hour. Alright, halfway done. 45 minutes, about 1,600 words written, I think. Alright, 2,000 words. That's really good. 2,000 words in an hour. About 1,900. That is good. That's what I hope for when I sit down to write. 107%, so that is 3,000 some. Let me do a quick little check of what my actual count is for the month right now. Alright, I am at 33,375 words. So in an hour and a half of writing time, plus a half an hour planning session, 3,238 words today. Not bad. Not bad at all. Alright, so that is me done for the day. I am starving to death. We'll hopefully get to eat in about 2 hours. And maybe I'll get to do something tomorrow too. Hopefully on track to hit 50,000 words. But we shall see.